Hello, hello my friends. Ted Simpson here, ready to show you a fun little painting today. We are, we're in a little time crunch, aren't we? It is Wednesday, December 17th, and I had not created a video on my days off like I meant to. Some things take precedence, like shopping, video games. Other things, we had a little bit of a cold snap, so, oh my gosh. Snow blow in the driveway. All that good stuff kind of wears me down on the days off. Laundry. Am I making excuses? A little bit. So, today's painting, I said it. This one is dedicated to two people today. There was a fella I met at Costco who has a YouTube channel as well. We swapped likes or follows. He does an office cooking channel. And also, I just got back from the doctor for a 6-month blood pressure check. And it was perfect. According to the doctor, that's how he says it, perfect. Just kidding, Dr. M. I appreciate all of those who have tuned in for this particular painting. As I always do here, I prep my canvas so that we can spread and mix color right on the painting. Today, of course, we're using the liquid white, not liquid clear or liquid black. This is liquid white. Nice, smooth, even coat. You know, I did a crazy class the other day, a seascape class based on Bob's Island Paradise. One of the rare occasions where we use liquid clear on both the black part of the canvas and the white part. That was a fun one. Turned out pretty well. Today's painting is going to be something a little different than a seascape, that is. We've got our paint laid out here, and I did take the time. A little bit of titanium white, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, midnight black, cad yellow, yellow ochre. Let's see what we can do. I thought here that there was a fun little painting on today's Bob's One-A-Day calendar, and I thought I would kind of swap it around and play around with it, see what we come up with. So here we go, doing exactly that. I'm going to pull a little bit of the alizarin crimson. Another class that I did recently here, they heard I was coming back in February, exactly on Valentine's Day. And they wanted me to do a pink painting, so maybe this will be a good pink practice painting here. And you can see here that bold crimson just pinks right up once we start working into that base color. A little bit of white and red, as we all know, make pink. And maybe, just maybe, there might be a little bit down here reflected into water if we decided, or just the mist at the base of, spoiler alert, there's going to be a mountain. That was all one sentence, I swear. So I cleaned the excess paint out of my brush, and now just going over that same color, let's just let it soften, turn to silk. And if you've watched my channel, I may come up with my own verbs, my own words. Silkify is the word that keeps coming to mind here. Just want to silkify that. Alright, let's make a color here. Some of that crimson, pound that crimson into your brush first, then bash in a little bit of that phthalo blue. And look at that, pound it 42 times, flip it over, another 20, 40 times, maybe not that much, and then adjust. Season to taste, except no salt, right, doctor? He's on me about the salt. Is that a color you like? a little bit to the red side, and that's okay. Maybe bash a little more blue into it. There we go. Drop it across the top. Let it start coming down. Just trying to fill in the white part of the canvas left from where we did the pink. Not trying to necessarily overlap the pink so much. Not yet. A little bit. Once we get that color, I'm just going to keep working it back and forth. Little crisscross strokes. Let those colors mix and melt. The more you work it, the more the colors will just turn one shade, you know? So you can leave it a little bit unmixed. You can melt it all into one shade if you like. It's completely up to you. And then, again, clean out your brush. You don't need to go fully into the paint thinner. Clean out the excess paint. And now, same crisscross strokes. Let's just bring it all together. Melt the pinks into the purples. Work it until you're relatively satisfied. Couple of final horizontals, and I think we've got ourselves a sky. Maybe, if there's any problem with it, you can always repeat yourself. I'm picking up a little bit of color, and look how we just darken that corner a little bit. That's all I'm trying to do. Helps draw the eye into the center when we have those corners just a little bit darker. All right. Now I'm messing with it. Here I go. All right, why not have a couple of clouds? Bob didn't do any clouds in this particular episode, but I like clouds, so we're going to put some in. Some fluffy clouds. Maybe some fluffy pink clouds. Why not? Got a pink sky here, so I'm going to load up plenty of titanium white. I added just a touch of crimson, as you saw. Let's see if it... Ooh, it looks pretty good. And let's just push out a couple of basic shapes. Something like that. A little more color. Build out a little cloud shape. And then, very quick here, tickle and tease and soften the bottom of the cloud. Ooh, that really matches the sky. Those are kind of faded, aren't they? I kind of like it. I'm going to add a bit more color to the brush. Now I'm picking up a bit more of the white, and hopefully that'll contrast a little more with the purple of the sky. Little indication here, those little fingerling looking clouds. Push a little bit of paint on there. And blend, soften, tease. Fluff and move, call it done. Maybe, if I have a little bit more of that bright white on my brush, let's maybe add a little highlight to that cloud. It is a little pink for my taste. Brighten it up just a tad here. When you're trying to add to a cloud that's already there, it can be risky. Those colors just want to kind of goop and just sort of melt together. So once you get the color off, try to leave it alone. And then we get a little bit of brightness there. That's it. Simple enough. All right. Let's take our next step here. Let's pick up some of that color here. Crimson, a bit more blue, and just a touch of black. That'll really darken the things down. So what I'm looking for is a dark purple. And maybe that purple is a little bit to the blue side. Okay, you add too much like I just did. I swear I did it on purpose. Just to show you. I pick up a little color, and if I mash into a little bit of white, You see the shade that I created? Definitely to the blue side. Maybe a little too much to the blue side for you. That's okay. What I would suggest, rather than trying to add all your crimson just to redden this up, start over, you know? Take a little bit of red, a little bit of your color, and make the purple that you're looking for. I'm relatively happy with the blue that I created, but if it's too blue for you, remake it. Clean knife, scrape a roll of paint onto your knife, and let's make our mountain shape here. Where's it gonna be? Where do you want it? Maybe, I don't know, we got the pink here kind of low, so if I start way too high, all that pink goes away. So, it kind of requires me to make my mountain a little lower onto my sky. And that's okay. Just pushing the paint on, scraping the excess away. See all that dark stuff? Give it a light scrape, and then what's left is the right amount. I'll tell you what, let's go a little higher, why not? We'll have a little more pink over on this side. From the sky there, it'll come up over. Look like just a little haze in the distance. But we're just pushing some paint on and then scraping it off. Push it right into the fabric, scrape the extra off. Just want to try to not go outside your border, or else your border wants to rise up into the sky. Something that's kind of happening with me right there, but I kind of clean it up and leave it alone. Do another little bump right there, and it just kind of meanders right on off the scene. That little bit of color that we leave on the canvas, that is going to build out our mountain. I swear it works. You don't need a lot of paint. It can actually work against you if you have a little too much color on the canvas. And I'm looking for a nice misty base of my mountain here. So I push. Look how I'm sliding that color. And the color that I pick up on my brush helps to fill in the mountain. It fills in the mountain and gives you a misty bottom. You just have to be careful not to go outside your border. I'm gently pressing in, and it really gives you a measure of control of where your outer border is. Look at that, just building out a shape. Working our way down. Ooh-wee, misty, crazy misty. And look how much bigger our mountain is just based off of that. Fun, fun. All right, let's go ahead and put some highlights on this mountain. I'm taking that same titanium white. It's got a little bit of the crimson pinkishness to it, which is nice. Helps it look like the sky colors are reflected in the highlights of the mountain. It all works together, you know? We have a particular palette here. White, red, blue, black, and purple. You know, we're letting all those colors work together. They don't all have to be different. Just variations on the theme, right? All right, well that didn't work. I think I had too much. See that little bead of dark is softer than the titanium white, so it's hard to stick a thick paint on top of a thin paint. Now that I remove that extra paint, I betcha there it wants to come right off. All these things I'm doing on purpose. Oh no, those are just the happy accidents. No pressure. Let that knife just float. and it creates those little breaks and holes. One thing I see when Bob's making these, he doesn't always mention all these things. He kind of shows sometimes rather than tells. And I'm here since I have a little more time to expand on Bob's technique, is that he changes the angle. You see how this angle is basically like this. Let's call this a flatter angle. As he moves this way, moves to the left, you see how the angle starts to get a little steeper? Really helps create a very cool mountain effect. Now, we've got that basically done, and of course you can come back and fill in some of these spots here as much or as little as you like. I'm going to try not to, so that we can have some room to put some shadow in. And let's see here, I've used a lot of this color, but at any point you can scrape it up, spread it out again, and add just that hint of crimson. There it is. And let's get our little roll of paint. And can't forget about this peak here. Each peak needs a little something, a little bit of highlight. And for now, I'm going to just stop right there. Okay, let's come in here and take some white. Let's take a little bit of that purpley color. Maybe a little bit of that darker purpley color, that bluish purple. Let's see about this. Look at that. A speck of blue, purpley blue, whatever you're looking for. Streaky blue. Just something different. Something darker than the highlight color. A little bit different than the background shadow color. And you know, I often here swap over and use that real small edge to the knife. That allows you to sneak into those harder to reach spots. Once I have it open, an open space to work, that's when I'll use the long edge of the knife and just lightly graze that knife across the mountain. Now, we got a little bit more of a vertical cliff edge up top here, so I'm just lightly pulling more straight down. Something like that. It looks pretty steep to me. You missed a little spot right there, little highlight, twink, drop it right in. I'm going to put a little highlight right there as well. See how I overlapped a little bit of the shadow? We're going to create the effect of a little peak here. Oop, wrong color. Wrong color completely. I'm trying to create the illusion here that this little outcropping is in front of the back steep cliff area. Let's see about making that just a little more distinct. There it is. Got to do the whistle. There we go. And, you know, I talk about this a lot here. When I'm doing my mountains, sometimes I'll do all my highlights first, then all my shadows, and then sometimes we just alternate. Whatever you're feeling that day, you know, you can play around with going with the highlights and shadows and going back and forth. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter. Bring some of that out. And then you get to decide here, maybe there's a whole new peak, a new ridge, and you just keep going, drop it in. Every highlight needs its own little shadow, so we'll drop a little highlight in, go right on back to the shadow side and clean it up. Now we can't forget about this little peak here. We got the highlight in, but we got to give it a shadow as well. There it is. Maybe the long edge of the knife, fill in these bigger areas a little faster. Drop in little indications of things here and there. And then, watch this, this is fun. I'll take a little bit of my background color, and maybe there's some spots here and there that are just a little bit deeper in shadow. So you can just drop those in. It really makes it a little more distinct in those little special spots. There we go. We are in a little, like I said, I'm in a little bit of time crunch. I do have to do a little bit more prep work for the classes I have coming up for the rest of the week. So we'll just call it there. We could play around and just add details as the day is long, but today we'll just leave it a little simpler. Tapping, sweeping, creating mist. Right around here, the bottom of the mountain. Just want to tap, finding the basic angles here. And then sweeping. Either sweep up, then sweep the very bottom just to mist it all out. Something like that. Who knows? Just want to mist it all together here. This is, I think I'm going to do something here. I have an idea. I'll let you know in a minute. It might just be shadows down here. Shadows in the snow. Sounds like a song title. Shadows in the snow. Islands in the stream. That's something different. That's a Kenny Rogers tune. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, I know what I'm listening to later. Alright, let's go ahead. Since we got this dirty old 1-inch brush already, we've got this pre-mixed purpley color, and we got a little bit of the white. See this? All this stuff. We're just working with the colors we decided on the day here. Let's create some distant little foothills here just by pulling down the corner of my 1-inch brush, overlapping the base of the mountain. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of mist and fog behind these little line of trees. Something like that. Clean the extra paint out of our brush, and let's bash the bottom here. That liquid white that I put on at the very start, that's what's going to be doing our task here today. Creating mist and fog just by tapping. That does the work for us. I really love that concept that Bob instilled in us here. Let the brush do the work. I'm tapping. The brush is bashing down, picking up the liquid white, and doing the work for us. There we go. Now, I'll tell you, here we go. Doing this highlight Doesn't require that much paint. I know it sometimes you want to just load it up, but you don't need to. Look at that. The white doesn't have to be super bright in order for it to be effective. Pulling across. Creating a little bit of mist and that undercolor there. We'll melt some of this white, we'll see a little bit. But we want to see shadows as well, so I'm trying not to overwork it. Take a step back. Does it need to be a little brighter? Maybe. Ooh, there we go. That'll brighten up your day. Nice. I'm just gonna hit whatever's in my brush. Look how it's coloring our foreground here. Once I get some color into the weave of the canvas, everything will spread and blend a little easier. I drop a little white. See that? Watch this. Push a little harder and watch it just melt into the scene. Adding a little highlight here and there. I like it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back a little bit. Virtually. Not really. Jump back. I clean my brush. Might use that a little bit later. Same thing with the fan brush. Just hold on to the metal part. I pinch off some of that excess gooey color. And I'm going to load a little more color in my brush. That little bit of white in my brush will lighten things up a tad, making a little bit darker color here. I add a little bit of white, but not as much as I did back here. We want it to be a little bit darker so that we can tap in a little bit more detail right there. The trees are starting to get closer, so we're starting to pick out a little more individual trees. Something like that. Maybe a couple of extra tall ones there. You'll see why in just a second. Stay with me. I'm going to use the corner of my brush and tap couple of individual branches right there. I like that. Okay. And let's see here. Got to get a little more paint mixed up. Maybe same thing on this side here. There'll be a couple of indications of some taller trees. Like that. Okay. Now, just as we did before, a little bit of white in my brush. I'm just going to turn it right into the foreground. Touch, slide, and blend. A little more paint in the brush. Bristles are starting to stick together a little bit. Try not to work it too hard or else that dark color will really become visible in the snow. I'm trying to have a balance between shadows in the snow and too much shadows in the snow. Something like that. Okay. And as we do here, we're going to jump into the foreground a little bit. I'm just using that same old dirty fan brush. Now I'm just going into pure midnight black. Maybe I lied, a touch of that white. Just a touch. And here we go. Bob's kind of choppy trees. Chop, 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 chop. Look at that, just rough looking trunk. It's got some bark on it. Wow, that really changes the effect, doesn't it? Then, little chops. I just raise the handle a little bit just so I can, just sort of fiddle and create a little foot there to the tree. Little place for the tree to grow from. Look at that. I'll tell you what, we'll make a smaller one right about here. Chop, 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 chop. That one's going to stop a little sooner, a little higher, and hopefully give us a sense that it's further away. Same thing, put a little, just a little wee foot on that tree, like that. To save a little bit of time, I'm going to grab another fan brush and a little bit of the white, a much lighter. It picks up some of that dark color, but it's mostly white. A little off-white, let's say. And put a little highlight, just chopping down right along the right edge. Ooh, this is some shaggy bark. You have to be careful when you're putting this on. If you fiddle with it too much, it will just want to melt away, and you'll just have one gray trunk. So get a little bit of color out onto the tree. Try not to mess with it too much. Little bit of color here. Pull it a little sideways. The idea is to make it look like this tree is a little bit sunken into the ground here. So look how I just pull that right out. Keeps the foot. Pushes that tree in. Gives it a little hill to live on. It's looking kind of nice. Now, oh, these trees do have it. Now, a couple of videos back, I showed you here about making branches using liquid black rather than using the paint thinner to thin down your colors. Just use plain old liquid black. Today, I don't even want to take the lid off the jar. It's sitting right there. I figured I'd just play around with the paint thinner. Pulling down, going out. Ooh, this liner brush has just about seen its last legs. Oh my goodness. Forgive me, I'm going to get a different one. Take care of your brushes and they'll take care of you. But even still, even the best cared for brushes do wear over time. And that's why I have several. So, there we go. Now, the great thing about these particular trees is they're going to get some leaves on them and such. So, if there's anything you don't like about them, don't worry. These are just for show right now. We'll cover up whatever's bugging you. Few branches on each of your trees. Whoa, that one grew. There we go. Boy, those grew so much, I gotta put a couple of smaller ones up here to balance it out. And since these are shaggy trees, a couple little broken ones here and there, got to give them a little shag. All right. Using a little bit of that same color I used for the trunk, I'm going to push up. See that? Here's a little bit of extra detail as promised. Just some dark color here to hide out any of those branches that are bugging you. Give it a little extra fun. That's all we're doing here. Having some fun. Really like the contrast between the distant mountains and then boom, all the detail in the trees. And if you so chose, just a hint of liquid white or paint thinner and your white. Let's get a little bit of the liquid white. I'm going to thin down some of my titanium white. Getting some loose paint here. And if you want a little snow on these close trees, there it is. You know, it has been, oh gosh, a few months at least, man, maybe even a year or so since I've made these mashy down evergreen style. I gotta do that more often. It turns out really well. It just adds a whole new bit of interest there. I tell you what, it was so fun making the two. You know we gotta have a third one. So how about one right here? This one's gonna be even taller. Let's come down right in front of that one. And maybe make it a little bigger, since this one's nice and close up here. Ooh-wee. See how I come just a little bit lower than this tree, right there. Change the angle, give it a little indication of a foot. Just a dark, shaggy looking thing. There it is. Switch over to my light brush, pick up some of that white, and right along the edge I'm going to shag in a little bit of a highlight. Tapping down, let it come off. Comes off nice and bright, get a little on that foot, and then right where the highlight and the dark color meet, give it a quick little tap to create a little blend. And there's our tree. Can't forget about, let's give it a little bit of a pull. Sink that tree down into the snow. All right, now it's just repeating ourselves, you know. We just get to make the same things again and again in the same painting, doing it one step at a time. Because it gives us practice. What I'm finding out here is I'm having a little bit too much follow through when I'm making these little flitting flicks. So that's my practice for the next tree here, is try not to whip it out too much, but you know, that's okay. You go ahead and make these as long or short, narrow as wide, however you want. And it's going to be just right for you. I had to clean up this angle here just a little bit. There it is. Now, does this tree need a little bit of foliage? Maybe. Don't forget, put some across the middle of the trunk too. That helps give it that round, cylindrical appearance to your tree. And then with a little bit of highlight, gotta put some frosty bits on your foliage. Frosty Foliage, another good band name. There we go. While I have that thin oil paint here, maybe a couple little sticks and twigs, grasses and so forth around the base of your tree, if you so choose. And when you have that unlimited time, you can make all sorts of further details, like cabins and maybe a boat. I always get asked to put boats in there, so why not? Frozen lake, we need a boat. So thank you guys again. This was super fun, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks again for the likes and follows and shares. Take care all.